Picture a man who has mastered human anatomy, trained in the most advanced surgical techniques of his day, sitting at the bedside of his own wife. He is watching her fade away, and his vast medical expertise offers absolutely no solution. This was St. Louis, Missouri in 1878. Conventional allopathic medicine, relying on heavy chemical treatments, mercury, and bloodletting, was the unquestioned standard of care. At the center of this orthodoxy was Dr. James Tyler Kent. He was a proud, highly successful eclectic physician and a university professor of anatomy who firmly believed in the established boundaries of medical science. But none of that science could help his second wife, Lucy. She was permanently bedridden, suffering from severe anemia and unrelenting insomnia. Kent and his colleagues had exhausted every conventional treatment available, and her condition only worsened. Facing the imminent death of his wife, Kent reached the limits of his own worldview. The absolute faith he held in his profession collapsed, forcing him to consider methods he once would have dismissed out of hand. At Lucy's strict insistence, they turned to a desperate final resort. They called in Dr. Richard Phelan, an older practitioner of homeopathy, a medical system relying on highly diluted substances to trigger the body's natural healing response. Dr. Phelan completely cured her. Where Kent and the entire orthodox medical establishment had failed, this alternative practitioner succeeded. Kent's reaction was immediate and absolute. He resigned his prestigious university chair of anatomy and gave up his membership in the Eclectic National Association entirely. This deeply personal crisis dismantled his academic arrogance. By walking away from conventional medicine, Kent took his first steps toward becoming the most rigorous pioneer in homeopathic history. Even as he began studying this discipline, Kent remained deeply skeptical of its most extreme claim, high potencies. These were medicines diluted so many times that logic suggested they should be completely ineffective. He decided to conduct a real-world test to prove them wrong. His opportunity arrived when a severely ill child was brought to his clinic. The patient presented with striking, violent symptoms, specifically a profuse, highly offensive yellow stool. These symptoms perfectly matched the plant podophyllum. Kent turned to Hahnemann's mathematical scale of dilution, visualized here, which continuously waters down a single drop. Kent administered the 30th centesimal potency. The statistical improbability of this dose cannot be overstated. By the 30th dilution, virtually zero physical molecules of the original plant remain. Yet, by the next morning, the child had made a complete and remarkable recovery. This clinical outcome forced Kent to conclude that healing operates through forces beyond basic physical chemistry. He immediately pivoted his practice, becoming a lifelong champion of high-potency medicine. This presented a massive biological mystery. If there is no actual physical material left in the dose, what exactly is interacting with the patient to cure chronic disease? Seeking an answer, Kent turned to the writings of Emanuel Swedenborg, a philosopher who wrote extensively about the immaterial, energetic forces driving the human body. Blending this philosophy with his clinical data, Kent developed his theory of octaves. As the schematic shows, human cells and organs vibrate at unseen energetic frequencies, like musical notes on a scale. Under this model, homeopathic potencies are systematically raised over time. A 30th, 200th, or 1M dilution is designed to ascend these bodily frequencies, canceling out erratic disease waves. Kent realized he was engineering a system of energetic resonance. He was treating the human body like a perfectly tuned instrument that required exact frequency adjustments to heal. As his understanding of the body deepened, Kent established a strict diagnostic rule for chronic disease. True healing must happen from the center to the periphery. This meant a patient's internal mental and emotional symptoms had to be resolved before their outward physical ailments. He illustrated this principle perfectly with a patient named Clara Louise Toby. She was suffering from physical symptoms that previous incorrect homeopathic treatments had actually driven inward, creating what Kent identified as a medicamental miasm, a toxic medical state caused by the drugs themselves. Kent correctly identified the toxic treatments, administered the proper antidotes, and cured her completely. Clara recovered, eventually married him, and became his most vital co-author and collaborator. Through cases like Clara's, Kent proved that physical disease is often just an outward alarm bell for a deeper spiritual or mental disorder. treat the skin without treating the mind, and you drive the sickness deeper. In 1897, he published his masterwork, Kent's Repertory of the Homeopathic Materia Medica. It was a massive text that systematically mapped the clinical nuances of thousands of individual remedies. Its true innovation was his focus on constitutional profiling. He discarded the standard practice of simply listing physical cures and instead gave his medicines distinct personalities. For instance, he described the remedy sulfur as the ragged philosopher, allowing doctors to precisely match the mental state of the patient to the temperament of the drug. Following his death in 1916, his dedicated disciples carried these methods across the globe. His teachings on high potency and constitutional prescribing laid the groundwork for modern homeopathic practice, deeply influencing practitioners in India and Europe today. The ultimate lesson of Dr. Kent's life is straightforward. To truly eradicate a disease, a physician cannot merely fight physical symptoms. They have to understand and treat the entire human being.